Hello guys, my name is Epereka Creation. Guys, thank you so much for all your support. Today I'm going to show you how to make Igbo blouse, and we're going to use a lace fabric to make it. Okay, so I'm going to use two lining. One is this one is satin, but I was supposed to use taffeta, but I couldn't get taffeta. That's why I'm using this satin. Then this one is the lining. Okay, but I'll show you how I will use it later. So today I'm going to show you another method. So we're going to work with hip measurement, because hip measurement is the widest measurement or biggest circumference. So my hip measurement is 46. So 46 divided by 4 is 11.5. So what I'm doing, for us to know, make sure that this will be enough for what we are going to use. So 11.5 hip measurement plus 3 inches that I'll take from here, take off 14.5 plus 3 inches seam allowance 17.5. So we have enough, and it's on fold, so it means that it's 17.5 times 2 because it's on fold. So I'm going to start now. From shoulder to my nipple, from shoulder to my bust point is 10, but I'm going to mark 10.5 because of half-inch seam allowance for joining. Then my underbust is 14, but I'll mark 14.5 because of half-inch seam allowance for joining. Half-inch seam allowance. This is my shock. Then half length is 17. I'll mark 17.5. Okay. Okay, so my nipple to nipple is 8 inches divided by 2 because it's on fold. This fabric is on fold. It's 4 plus half-inch seam allowance is 4.5. So I'll mark 4.5 here. I'll mark 4.5 here, underboss here, 4.5 all the way down. Okay, so the length of the top is 25, but what I have here is 26 because I'll use the remaining 1 inch for seam allowance. Okay, so we are going to mark our darts up here on the shoulder. This is my shoulder. Here I will mark 1 inch. Okay, this line is underboss. This one is bust point and this one is underboss. Underboss here I will mark 1/4, I'll mark 1.5. I'll use 1.5 because I want it to go in. I'll use 1.5. Inches, yeah. Okay. If you're making this top for someone that have tummy, here you will mark 1 under here. But anybody can wear it if you mark 1 here. If you mark 1 here, anybody can wear it. But if you have flat tummy, want it just to be if you have flat tummy, you will just take this one down like this, and this one down. I'll show you more. Let me mark a 1 here. Okay. So I'm going to connect this one with this French curve. This is my shock. I don't really need this one. I'm going to connect this one. Okay, good. Then here I'll use the French curve also, or I'll mark 1/2 inch here. Then I'll use the ruler to connect it. What type of stroke is this? So on this place, on underboss here, if it's somebody that have flat tummy, you will mark this straight to this 1.5 inches straight all the way down. All the way down, this 1.5. You mark it all the way down. But if somebody 1.5 inches all the way down. But if it's somebody that have tummy, you bring your hand, you start coming in like this. But if you know that you can't be able to do that, that's why you mark 1 inch here. So this 1 inch, you will connect it from here. You will connect it like this. Okay, let me go through it again. My nipple to nipple is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4, plus 1/2 inch seam allowance is 4.5. So this line is 4.5. This line in the middle. Then here I mark 1 inch on this point here on my shoulder. Then underboss 1.5. 1.5. Then at the length of the blouse down here, 1. Then I'll connect all the line. But here, before I connect this line, I go up by 1/2 inch from bust point. I mark 1/2 inch here. So from here I connect it to that 1/2 inch. So then I will cut it now. I don't really need this one because I will use this one to cut this side. Okay guys, this is what we'll get. So this one I'll put it like this to cut the other side and take my measurement. This to secure it. Yeah, 3 inches. You can see it's 3 inches here on the boss. Okay, I'll cut it now. I'll use this one to cut this one. I'll cut it. I'll cut it here. Okay, so now we are going to take our measurements. There's 2 ways of taking measurement on this type of on this method. There's 2 ways. I'll show you the 2 ways. Okay, here is this line is my bust point, so I'll shake what I have here. Here I have 4.5. So for me to take the measurement, I'll put this tape like this. I'll put 4.5. This is 4.5 on the edge here because of this. This one's supposed to be on this side, but because I'm using it here, that's why I'll put tape just like this. It's 4.5. Then I'll take my measurement. My bust measurement is 11. Is 44. Divided by 4 is 11. So this is 11 plus 3 inches seam allowance. 14. So like this. Okay, my underboss, what I have here is 3 inches. So that 3 inches, I'll hold it like this. I'll put it like this. Then my underboss is 38. 38 divided by 4 is 9.5. Then plus 3 inches seam allowance is 12.5. Okay, the next one is hip. My hip measurement is 46. 46 divided by 4 is 11.5. So what I have here is 3.5. So I'll put the 3.5 like this, 11.5 here, plus 3 inches seam allowance, 14.5. I'll mark 14.5. Okay. Then my shoulder. Here, I have a 3.5. So my shoulder is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Is here, plus 2 inches seam allowance is 10. I'll mark it here. So from here I'll curve my armhole, but I don't want to do it now because I want to show you another method, another way of taking measurements. Okay, because there's two ways of taking measurement on this method. Okay, so the other way is like this. You put this like this. So now to take my underboss measurements, to take my measurement like this, so you will make sure, because you know that we are going to join it with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so you will make sure that you use pin. If you use pin to hold 1/2 inch from this one and 1/2 inch on this one as well. 1/2 inch. If you're not sure, you'll mark it. You'll mark 1/2 inch on this one and 1/2 inch on this one, because we are going to use 1/2 inch to join it. Okay. So okay, now I'll take my hip measurement. My hip is 11.5 plus 3 inches seam allowance, 14.5. 14.5. So here my waist, here is my waist. My waist is 38 divided by 4 is 9.5 plus 3 inches seam allowance, 12.5. My underboss, is 38 also, plus 3 inches seam allowance. 38 divided by 4 is 9.5 plus 3 inches seam allowance is 12.5. So here my boss is 44 divided by 4 is 11. Okay, let me make sure that it's 1/2 inch. Oh no, 1/2 inch. Yeah, 1/2 inch. See, okay. So my boss is my boss is 44 divided by 4 is 11. 11 plus 3 inches, 14. 14. Okay, here you make sure that you have half an inch under here and half an inch on top. So here is my shoulder. Let me pin it. Okay, it's my shoulder. My shoulder is my shoulder is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8 plus 2 inches seam allowance. This one I don't really need 2 inches seam allowance on this one. I'll just take my shoulder measurement because I've already used half inch that I'll use to join it here. Okay, 8 plus half inch seam allowance, 8.5. We have just marked 8.5 on this one. 8.5. So from that 8.5, I use 8 for my armhole. I'll mark 8 here. Then I'll mark it this way as well. So here I'll mark 1. I'll mark 1 here. Then I'm in the middle of the midpoint here, which is 3.5. Hold on. Okay, I've marked 1 inch here for shoulder slant or slope. So I'll get midpoint here. So from here I'll mark if you're small to medium, you'll mark half inch here. Then but large, you'll mark 3/4. I'll mark 3/4 here, half 3/4. Then I'll use this French curve. Connect it. Okay. So my bust measurement will also be here. Let me be sure. 11 and 3 inches. Okay. My bust measurement here will also be here. I'll come on. I'll just use this one. Then I'll cut it. Okay, so now if you want, you go and join all this. After joining, but you join from down. After joining, you will cut your neckline. But if you don't want to do so, since you've joined it here with pin with half an inch seam allowance that you used to join it, you can take your neckline. You can mark your neckline and cut it. So my neckline, I'll take 5 inches. I'll take 4.5 width. My neck width of 4.5 and neck depth of 6 inches. So I'll use this to connect it. I'll cut it. There's pin there. Remove the pin. Remove the pin. Oh, it's the sequence, not pin. This sequence. Okay. So let me open it. Okay, this is what we have.